In December 2025, a copyright infringement case was filed in the Bombay High Court against the Great Indian Couple show and Netflix. The allegation was that 3 songs used in season 3 without proper authorization from the right holders. Bhajan Jamming night was an 8,000-seat arena with devotional tracks. Most of us do not think twice. This is Who Decides episode 3, where we are unpacking the music licensing professionals. Who decides what gets cleared, what gets paid, and what happens when it is not. Most people think music is free the moment it exists. It's on Spotify, YouTube, it plays everywhere. But here's the thing, enjoying music is free. But the moment you attach revenue to it, a ticket, a brand deal, a view count, the rules change completely. And behind every commercial use of a song, somebody had to figure out, does this production, this event, this platform, this individual have the right to use the song? Because music is not just art, it's intellectual property. And intellectual property has owners. When you hear a song, you're hearing 2 separate things at once. 1, the composition, and 2, the sound recording. These are 2 separate rights, 2 separate owners, 2 separate royalties. So when a film, a show, a live event wants to use a song, it's often not 1 but 2 conversations. And if a production has 10 songs, that's potentially 20 separate rights conversations, 20 separate agreements, 20 separate payments to track. That's the system. And it exists for a reason. On a film or television production, that responsibility usually belongs to the music supervisor. They sit in the creative meetings with directors and producers, understanding what a scene needs emotionally. Then they go find a song that helps create that feeling. Well, here's what most people do not realize about the job. Finding the song is probably 20% of it. The other 80% is system navigation. Calling labels, publishers, right holders, and licensing representatives. Negotiating fees, securing permissions, and they manage something called a cue sheet. A precise log of every piece of music used in a production, how long it played, and in what context. This cue sheet is not just paperwork. It is the document that is tracking for performance royalties after a project is released. Now, the sync licensing is simply a one-time agreement between a production and the right holders to use a song inside visual media. But what about the cue sheet you just spent months preparing? That's where a second system begins, performance royalties. If a song plays in a Netflix series that streams in 190 countries, every time that episode plays, performance royalties are tracked back to the cue sheet, routed through the licensing body, and distributed to the composer and the label. The fees involved are not small either. A Netflix placement for an independent artist can range from a few thousands of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars just for the upfront sync fees. Imagine 2 completely different scenarios. A production company wants to use Kesaria in the emotional climax of a streaming series. A music supervisor now has to secure permissions from both the publishing side and the recording side, negotiate terms, clear the usage, and ensure the song can legally live inside that episode. Now imagine a DJ who is playing Kesaria at a ticketed New Year's Eve event. Nobody is attaching the song to visual media. Nobody is creating a new audio-visual work. The DJ does not need a sync license. Instead, the venue typically relies on public performance licenses that allows copyrighted music to be played legally in front of an audience. Same song, same audience enjoyment, completely different licensing paths. These are 2 separate licensing systems, and understanding which one applies is exactly why music licensing professionals exist. In December 2025, a copyright infringement case was filed in the Bombay High Court against the Great Indian Couple show and Netflix. The lawsuit is how the system tries to correct that. Now, cases like this can happen for many reasons. Production timelines are brutal, music clearance involves multiple parties. Mistakes can happen even when people have good intentions. But the case demonstrates exactly why this rule exists. Because when the job is done right, these conversations have already happened. The permissions have already been secured and paperwork completed. The question, did we have the right to use this, gets answered even before the episode ends. And the money involved is enormous. In Warner Music Group's 2021 financial filings, the company reported roughly $291 million in licensing revenue from its recorded music business, while the publishing division generated another $144 million from sync license alone. That's hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through agreements that somebody had to negotiate, document, clear, and track. Which is why companies take music rights seriously, because when they do not, the cost can become very real. Now, I want to talk about something happening currently in India, Bhajan clubbing or Bhajan jamming. It is one of the most interesting cultural moments in urban India right now. What started as intimate gatherings has scaled into large ticketed experiences, drawing thousands of people. Tickets, brand sponsorships, professional production, real revenue. There's a generation rediscovering devotional music in a modern format. It's beautiful, but it also raises a question that every growing entertainment business eventually has to answer. What music is actually being played? And who owns it? Because here's what people get confused. Most people assume bhajans are public domain, religious, ancient, no living copyright holder, no licensing required. That is broadly true, but bhajan is also a style of music nowadays. It is not a copyright category. A huge proportion of what plays at modern bhajan jamming events is contemporary. Modern recordings, modern arrangements, songs released by artists and labels that actively own copyrights in both the composition and the recording. The moment a copyrighted devotional track becomes part of a commercial event, many of the same licensing questions begin to matter. Ownership, permission, payments. None of this is to suggest that organizers are not doing things correctly. Many of the major players absolutely would be thinking about these issues. The industry is professionalizing quickly. The point I'm trying to make is that as the movement scales from hundreds of people to thousands, this is exactly when music licensing professionals become even more essential, not as legal gatekeepers, but as infrastructure. People who understand which songs are public domain, which songs require permissions, which organizations need to be contacted, and what rights need to be cleared. The underlying challenge across both Hollywood and Bollywood is the same. Someone earns revenue using music they did not create, but the architecture is different. In Hollywood, music supervision is an established profession with a clear pipeline. There are agencies, guilds, licensing companies, and music schools that train people specifically for this work. When a production gets greenlit, the question of who handles music clearance has a standard answer. In India, that professional infrastructure is still being built. There's also a fragmentation problem. In Hollywood, venues and broadcasters typically hold blanket licenses from performing rights organization. A venue pays a flat annual fee and can play almost anything covered by that catalog. The system is standardized enough that most commercial venues operate with active blanket licenses as a baseline. In India, enforcement has historically been less consistent. The licensing bodies for compositions, for sound recordings, and third-party organizations that hold rights to certain catalogs each operate independently. A licensee may need agreements from multiple bodies for the same event. The Indian government announced a centralized digital music licensing registry in 2025 aimed at creating a single window system. The system is still formalizing itself. In the meantime, the person navigating all of this is doing one of the most technically demanding jobs in entertainment. And most people at the concert have no idea they even exist. Whether called music supervisors, sync licensing managers, or rights clearance specialists, they are essentially risk architects. They understand the difference between a sync license and a public performance license. They know which songs have grant rights complications because they were composed for stage music. They know which artists have morality clauses that restrict commercial use. They track cue sheets, negotiate, and make sure production can legally use music across platforms, territories, and formats. Most people think entertainment is a creativity business. And it is, but it is also a rights business. Behind every song in every film, every track at every live event, every commercial, every streaming show, and every devotional melody filling an arena is a chain of decisions determining who can use that music and who gets paid when they do. The music licensing professional sits at the center of that chain. They decide which tracks are cleared and which are not. And they help ensure that the people who created the music are compensated when others profit from it. As India's entertainment industry continues to scale, from Bollywood productions to Bhajan Jamming arenas, the people who understand the system, who can build it and navigate it, are going to become increasingly important. Not because they know the music, but because they know who owns it. And in entertainment business, that is a superpower to have.